The 2015 Guildford Borough Council election took place on 7 May 2015 to elect members of Guildford Borough Council in England as one of the 2015 local elections, held simultaneously with the general election. Results. The result saw the Conservatives win 35 of the 48 seats on Guildford Borough Council, one more than the 34 seat which they won in the previous elections in 2011. Towards the north and east of the borough of Guildford, a new party, the Guildford Greenbelt Group, won 3 seats, 2 in Send Ward and 1 in Clarendon and Horsley Ward. All 3 of these gains were from the Conservatives. Also in the north and east of the borough of Guildford, the Liberal Democrats retained their 2014 by-election gain, which they had made from the Conservatives. In Lovelace Ward, moving from the east and northeast of the borough to the town of Guildford itself, the Conservatives made 5 gains. They gained 1 of the 3 Liberal Democrat seats on Friary and St Nicholas Ward, plus 1 of the 3 Liberal Democrat seats on Stoughton Ward, plus the Liberal Democrat seat on Stoke Ward. They also gained 2 of the 3 seats on Westborough Ward, taking 1 from the Liberal Democrats and 1 from Labour. The summary table below shows changes relative to the 2011 Guildford Borough Council election results. It does not take account of the interim by-election change in Lovelace Ward. Voting trends. This article compares the votes obtained in the 2015 election with those obtained in 2011. The percentages obtained per candidate can be found in the full list of ward-by-ward results. Further down this page, the source and methodology for calculating percentages are discussed in the reference notes at the foot of the page. The 2015 Guildford Borough Council election coincided with the United Kingdom general election. This resulted in a significantly increased turnout. The wards to the west of Guildford town saw the Conservatives win every single seat by a comfortable margin. In 5 of the 6 rural wards to the west of Guildford, where there was both a Liberal Democrat candidate and a Guildford Greenbelt Group candidate, it was the Greenbelt candidate, rather than the Liberal Democrat, who was the runner-up to the Conservatives. The voting behaviour in the town of Guildford itself was different to the rural areas. In a clear majority of the rural wards, the top 2 parties were the Conservatives and the Guildford Greenbelt Group. By contrast, in the town of Guildford itself, the Greenbelt Group were not in the top 2 in any of the wards. The west side of the town had a number of wards where the total number of votes cast for Conservative candidates in that ward and cast for Liberal Democrats in that ward were nearly equal. The closest was in Stoughton, which had a total combined vote for Conservative candidates of 4,421, versus 4,424 for the Liberal Democrats. In Friary and St Nicholas Ward, the total combined vote for the 3 Conservative candidates was 4,265. The total combined vote for the 3 Liberal Democrat candidates was 4,254. In the east side of the town, other than Stoke Ward, the Conservative won comfortably in all the wards, with the Liberal Democrats a distant second. The Labour percentage vote in the town of Guildford itself, if one considers the wards as a whole, was up. However, the Labour vote was down in percentage terms in those wards which had a Labour councillor. Going into the election, the most dramatic voting change occurred in the eastern rural wards. Traditionally, these have contained the Conservatives' safer seats. In 2011, the Conservatives won all 6 of the council seats in Clarendon and Horsley Ward, Lovelace Ward and Send Ward towards the east and northeast of the borough. In 2015, the Conservative only retained 2 of those 6 seats, losing 3 seats to the Guildford Greenbelt Group and seeing the Liberal Democrats retain their 2014 by-election gain in Lovelace Ward. the long-term future of the Wisley Airfield site in Lovelace Ward was one of the issues particular to this part of Guildford Borough. Ash South and Tongham. Ash is to the west of Guildford Borough Council and borders Aldershot further to its west. Ash South and Tongham Ward is the southerly one of the three Ash wards. It elects 3 councillors. The 2011 elections had seen 3 Conservative candidates face only 2 Labour candidates and no one else. As a result, the 3 Conservatives had been returned very easily, with each candidate getting around 80% of the vote. The 2015 elections were more competitive. 3 Conservatives, 2 Liberal Democrats, 1 Labour and 1 Guildford Greenbelt candidate stood for this ward. The 3 Conservatives won between 63% and 69% of the vote. 2 new councillors for the area, Nigel Curse and Paul Sponner, were amongst those elected. The 2 Liberal Democrat, 1 Labour and 1 Guildford Greenbelt candidates each obtained votes in the 20% to 30% region. Ash Vale. Ash Vale is the northerly of the 3 Ash wards. It elects 2 councillors. The Liberal Democrats had not put up candidates in either the Ash South and Tongham ward or the Ash Vale ward in the 2011 elections. In 2015, 2 Liberal Democrats and 2 Conservatives competed in this ward. The Conservatives won. There was a noticeable difference between the vote of the top Conservative candidate, 71%, and that of the second candidate, 60%. By contrast, the 2 Liberal Democrat candidates in Ash Vale ward were only 2 votes apart from one another. Ash Wharf. Ash Wharf is the central of the 3 Ash wards. It elects 2 candidates in both the 2011 elections and the 2015 elections. 4 years later, the top Conservative candidate in Ash Wharf obtained 63.3% of the vote. West Rural Guildford. Normandy. Normandy elects 1 councillor. It is the ward between Guildford, the town, and Ash. The Conservatives held Normandy ward in 2015, with a majority of 644 over the second-placed Guildford Greenbelt candidate. The Liberal Democrats fell back to 4th, behind the Labour candidate. The Liberal Democrats only obtaining around 7% of the vote in a seat they and their SDP Liberal Alliance predecessors had held between 1987 and 1999. New councillor for the area David Bilb was elected. Pilgrims. Pilgrims ward covers a number of small villages along the North Downs. It elects 1 councillor. Conservative Tony Ruth was re-elected with 61.9% of the vote, with the Guildford Greenbelt candidate on 14.6%. In second place, Pirbright. Pirbright elects 1 councillor. The previous 3 contests in Pirbright have been straight Conservative versus Liberal Democrat fights. This time, in addition to Conservative and Liberal Democrat candidates, there was a Guildford Greenbelt candidate. The Conservative share of the vote has remained within a fairly consistent range. In Pirbright, over the last decade, it was roughly 66% in 2007, 64% in a by-election in 2010 and 71% in 2011. In 2015, it was 66%. Existing councillor Gordon Jackson was re-elected. Shalford. Shalford borders Guildford town to its southwest. It elects 2 councillors. The ward includes Artington and Compton as well as Shalford. Shalford was one of a number of wards in Guildford where the Conservatives retained the seat in 2015. But with new candidates, Michael Illman and Michael Parsons were elected with a majority that fell slightly from the Conservatives' 2011 majority of 746 to 669. The runner-up was the Guildford Greenbelt Group. Worplesdon. Worplesdon Ward borders the town to the north and northwest of Guildford. It elects 3 councillors. It includes a substantial amount of town overspill in addition to villages like Worplesdon and Wood Street Village. The Conservatives retained their 3 seats in Worplesdon Ward. Their majority increased slightly from 399 in 2011 to 426 in 2015. Existing councillors for the area David Elms, Bob McShee and Iseult Rush were re-elected. The Guildford Greenbelt Group were the runners-up. The Liberal Democrat vote fell to around 15%. In 2011 it had been in the 32 to 35% range. Guildford Town, West Side, Friary and St Nicholas. Friary and St Nicholas Ward elects 3 councillors. The Friary bit of this ward covers most of the town centre, stretching slightly to its north. The St Nicholas bit of the ward is on the other side, the west side, of the River Wey and covers the southwest part of the town. Prior to the 2015 elections, all the councillors, since 1983, for Friary and St Nicholas had been Liberal Democrats, or their predecessors. However, the Liberal Democrat majorities had been consistently falling through a number of elections. In 2003 the Liberal Democrat majority had been 10-14. In 2007 it was 553. And in 2011 it fell to 241. In 2015, the Conservatives took one of the 3 Liberal Democrats' seats on Friary and St Nicholas Ward. Onslow include Onslow Village, Guildford Park and the University of Surrey. The ward elects 3 councillors. In the previous 8 full council elections in Onslow, half the time 3 Liberal Democrats had been elected and the other half of the time 2 Liberal Democrats and 1 Conservative had been elected. In 2015, the result in Onslow was, once again, 2 Liberal Democrats and 1 Conservative. The top Labour, Green and Guildford Greenbelt candidates all obtained between 21% and 23% of the vote. The gap between the top Conservative candidate in Onslow and the bottom one was around 14% of the total vote. The gap between the top Greenbelt candidate and the bottom one was between 9 and 10% of the total vote. The gap between the top Labour candidate and the bottom one was between 8 and 9% of the total vote, which tends to indicate that there was a lot of voting splitting between the parties, or plumping for just one candidate. Stoughton is to the northwest of Guildford. It elects 3 councillors. Stoughton was one of 3 wards to the west of Guildford in which a Conservative topped the poll, followed by 2 Liberal Democrats. The other 2 wards were Friary and St Nicholas and Onslow wards. The Liberal Democrat in 3rd place beat the Conservative in 4th by 6 votes. 3rd gets elected, 4th doesn't. Westborough ward includes Westborough and Park Barn. Park Barn was largely built as a council estate. Westborough ward elects 3 councillors. Throughout most of its history as a council ward, Labour have held all 3 of the Westborough council seats. Westborough became a ward on Guildford Municipal Borough Council in 1933, as the boundaries of the town were extended to the west around that time, necessitating a new ward in that area. Between 1933 and 2014, the Conservatives won only once in Westborough ward. In 1968, a year where Labour did very poorly in local elections throughout England and the Conservative gained a lot of their seats as a result. In 2015 the Conservatives gained 2 of the 3 seats on Westborough ward, 1 at the expense of Labour and 1 at the expense of the Liberal Democrats. Existing Liberal Democrat councillor Julia McShane was the other person elected. Guildford Town, East Side. Burpham is towards the northwest of the town of Guildford. It elects 2 councillors. In the previous three local elections in Burpham, 2003, 2007 and 2011, the ward had been a Conservative, Liberal Democrat marginal, where the largest majority had been 137. In 2015, Conservatives Christian Holliday and Mike Piper increased their majority over the top Liberal Democrat candidate, in third place, to 689 votes. Christchurch ward covers the area east of Guildford from Cross Lanes in the west to Boxgrove Park and Abbotswood in the east. The ward elects two councillors. Conservatives Matt Furness and Nikki Nelson-Smith were re-elected with respectively 67.7% and 56.8% of the vote. The top Liberal Democrat, in third place, won 18.2% of the vote. Holy Trinity ward include most of the south part of the town on the east side of the Riverway. Three new Conservatives candidates were elected to represent Holy Trinity ward in 2015. Their majority over the Liberal Democrat in fourth, increasing from the 145 majority the Conservatives obtained in 2011 to 438 in 2015. Merrow elects three councillors. Other than a period in the 1990s when the Liberal Democrats captured Merrow and Burpham, this has been a safe Conservative ward since the mid-1950s. The Conservative majority over the top-placed Liberal Democrat grew from 855 in 2011 to 1348 in 2015. Stoke ward largely consists of Belfields and Slyfield Green. Much of Belfields was originally built as a council estate. Historically, Stoke ward, along with Westborough ward, have been the wards in Guildford most likely to vote Labour. In 2011, Stoke ward had a close result which saw one Labour and one Liberal Democrat elected, with the top Conservative 35 votes off second place. In 2015, long-standing Labour councillor Angela Gunning was re-elected. Also elected was Conservative William Chesterfield, who became the first Conservative to be elected for Stoke ward since 1969. East Rural Guildford, Clarendon and Horsley elects three councillors. It is traditionally the Conservatives' safest ward on Guildford Borough Council. 2015 saw two Conservatives and one Greenbelt candidate elected in Clarendon and Horsley ward. There was a 40% swing from the Conservatives to the Greenbelt candidates in Clarendon and Horsley ward. Effingham is the most easterly of the wards in Guildford Borough. It elects one councillor. Liberal Democrat Liz Hogger saw her vote increase from 54.7% in 2011 to 60.5% in 2015. In both 2011 and 2015, Liz Hogger got the highest percentage vote of any Liberal Democrat candidate for Guildford Borough Council. Lovelace consists of the villages of Ripley, Arkham and Wisley. It elects one councillor. 2014. Liberal Democrat. By-election winner Colin Cross retained the seat with a 432 majority over the Guildford Greenbelt candidate in second. The Conservatives were pushed into third. Lovelace was the only ward in Guildford where the Conservatives did not finish in the top two political parties in 2015. Send elects two councillors. Two Guildford Greenbelt candidates topped the poll with a 242 majority over the Conservative in third place. As in Clarendon and Horsley ward, there was a 40% swing from the Conservatives to the Greenbelt candidates in Send. There are 22 wards on Guildford Borough Council. 36.2% of the votes which the Greenbelt group got throughout Guildford Borough in 2015 came from just one ward, Clarendon and Horsley. A further 13.2% of the Greenbelt's Guildford vote in 2015 came from Send ward, Tillingbourne, Tillingbourne includes Shire, Albury and St Martha's. Conservatives Richard Billington and David Wright were re-elected with a 799 majority over the Greenbelt candidate in third place. Ward by ward. See also Guildford Council election. Full results. 2011.